Okay, real quick, before you scroll past this, I need you to hear something. There is a 63-year-old woman right now who just got her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, won an honorary Golden Bear at one of the most prestigious film festivals in the world, starred in not one but two massive franchise films this year, got cast in a brand new action franchise by the same producers behind John Wick, and is about to premiere a short film directed by the guy who just swept the Oscars. All in the same 12 months. And somehow, she is still not getting the flowers she deserves. So let's fix that right now. Because the story of Michelle Yeoh is not just a celebrity story. It is one of the most insane comeback, resilience, and glass-ceiling shattering stories in the history of Hollywood. And I'm going to break it all down for you. Let's start from the very beginning because this part always catches people off guard. Michelle Yeoh was not supposed to be an action star. She was not supposed to be in Hollywood at all. She was born in Ipoh, Malaysia in 1962, and her first dream was to be a ballet dancer. She trained hard, she loved it, and then her body basically said no, a back injury ended that path before it really started. Now most people at that point would have pivoted to something safe, something normal, something predictable. Michelle Yeoh was not most people. She entered the Miss Malaysia World pageant in 1983, won it, and that win opened a door she had never even knocked on, a door to the film industry in Hong Kong. Here's where it gets wild. She moved to Hong Kong with basically no acting experience and jumped straight into the deep end of one of the most physically demanding film industries in the world. Hong Kong action cinema in the 1980s was not using stunt doubles the way Hollywood did. Everyone did their own stunts. The falls were real. The hits were real. The training was brutal. And Michelle Yeoh didn't just survive it, she became one of the best in the game. We are talking films like Yes Madam in 1985, Magnificent Warriors in 1987, and Police Story 3 Super Cop in 1992 alongside Jackie Chan. She became a legitimately elite action performer at a time when women in that genre were almost always playing the role of the one being saved. Michelle Yeoh was the one doing the saving. She was the one doing the fighting. She was the one flipping cars and jumping off buildings. And she was doing it in heels half the time. It was unreal. But then she stepped back. She actually retired briefly after marrying a film producer. She walked away from the industry. And a lot of people thought that was it. Story over. Beautiful career, quick exit, goodbye. And then, she came back. And it turns out, the second chapter was going to be even bigger than the first. In 1997, Michelle Yeoh was cast in the James Bond film Tomorrow Never Dies alongside Pierce Brosnan. Now think about what that meant. Not just any role in a Bond film, she was cast as Wai Lin, a Chinese secret agent who was essentially Bond's equal throughout the movie. She wasn't a love interest who needed rescuing. She fought alongside him, outsmarted people alongside him, and in a lot of scenes, honestly outperformed him. American audiences saw her for the first time and their jaws dropped. Who is this woman? Where has she been? And the answer was, she'd been out there the whole time, the rest of the world just wasn't paying attention yet. Then came Crouching Tiger Hidden Dragon in 2000, directed by Ang Lee. That film changed everything. It became a global phenomenon, won 4 Academy Awards, and cemented Michelle Yeoh as a serious dramatic performer, not just an action star, but an actress with range, depth, and magnetism that could hold an entire film. She was getting recognition on the world stage now. But Hollywood being Hollywood. It still took them way too long to fully embrace her. The roles came, but not always at the level she deserved. Years went by. She did supporting roles. She took what was available. She kept working, kept showing up, kept being extraordinary in whatever she was given. And the industry still wasn't fully seeing it. Until 2022. Everything Everywhere All at Once arrived in theaters, and it was like someone turned on a spotlight that the entire world had to look at. Michelle Yeoh played Evelyn Kwan Wang, a burnt-out laundromat owner dealing with a tax audit who discovers she can access skills and memories from parallel universes. It sounds insane, and it is insane, and it is also one of the most emotionally devastating and hilarious and creative films made in the last decade. Michelle Yeoh carried that film on her back. She did action sequences, she did comedy, she cried in ways that made you cry. She embodied a character that felt real and messy and human while also jumping between multiverses with googly-eye weapons. It was a performance for the ages. And the Academy finally said what the world already knew. Michelle Yeoh won the Oscar for Best Actress. She became the first person of Asian descent to win that category in the 95-year history of the Academy Awards. Let that sink in. 95 years. She was the first. It was a historic, jaw-dropping, long-overdue moment. And when she got up on that stage, she did not just give a gracious thank you speech. She said something that went viral immediately. She looked at every woman and every little girl watching and said, "This is proof that dreams do come true." And she looked at every person who had ever been told they were too old and said, "Do not let anybody tell you you are past your prime." She was 60 years old when she said that. And she meant every single word. Now here's what separates Michelle Yeoh from literally everyone else at her level. Most people win an Oscar and then they coast for a few years. They show up at galas. They do one prestige film, they take a breath. Michelle Yeoh did the opposite. She went into overdrive. 2024 she starred in Wicked, the massive musical film adaptation directed by John M. Chu, playing Madame Morrible alongside Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo. That film became one of the biggest musical movies in years. And in 2025, she came back for Wicked for Good, the sequel. 2 films in the same mega franchise, 2 years in a row. While also doing press for like 4 other things. And this is where it gets even crazier, she was announced as the lead of a brand new action film called The Surgeon. The producers behind this are the same people who made John Wick. Let me say that again. The John Wick producers looked at the action landscape and said, "We want Michelle Yeoh." And the concept is incredible. She plays a retired surgeon who gets abducted and forced to operate on a mystery patient, and her captors have completely underestimated her because her 35 years of surgical experience becomes the most dangerous weapon in the room. It is described as explosive and brutal and visually unlike anything audiences have seen before. They are hoping it becomes a full franchise. A Michelle Yeoh-led John Wick-style franchise. I need you to understand how big that is. And we are not done. In December 2025, it was announced that Oscar-winning director Sean Baker, the same person who just had an historic sweep at the Oscars with his film, wrote, directed, and shot a short film called Sandiwara starring Michelle Yeoh, filmed in Penang, Malaysia. It's described as an immersive celebration of womanhood, cultural identity, and culinary heritage. It premiered at the Berlin International Film Festival, which is also the same festival that just announced it is giving Michelle Yeoh the honorary Golden Bear, one of the highest honors in international cinema, in recognition of her entire body of work and her outstanding contributions to film. Let me just list what has happened recently so you can see this all at once. Hollywood Walk of Fame star. Honorary Golden Bear at the Berlin Film Festival. New Sean Baker short film premiering at Berlin. Wicked for Good in theaters. The Surgeon franchise in development. Blade Runner 2099 series coming for Amazon. Avatar 4 and Avatar 5 both confirmed with her in them. This woman has more on her plate right now than most 30-year-old stars can dream of. And here's the part that I think deserves the most attention, because it's the thing that other celebrities never talk about honestly. Michelle Yeoh has spoken publicly about incredibly difficult personal things, including her struggles with infertility, the grief of not being able to have children, and the way she had to process that without blaming herself. She talked about a point in her career where she almost quit entirely, where the roles dried up and the doubt crept in and she was genuinely on the edge of walking away from acting for good. And she has been open about how close she came to that edge before things turned around. That vulnerability, that honesty, is part of why people love her so deeply. She is not just a highlight reel. She is a real person who went through real things and came out the other side not just intact but transformed. The other thing that rarely gets enough coverage is her work outside of film. Michelle Yeoh has been a UN Development Program Goodwill Ambassador since 2016. She has campaigned for road safety at the United Nations General Assembly. She has worked for wildlife conservation, for HIV and AIDS awareness, for gender equality, for disaster relief. She has also joined the International Olympic Committee as a member. She is not just an entertainer, she is someone who is genuinely using her platform in ways that matter. And she has been doing it quietly for years, long before it was trendy to talk about. She also joined the English-language cast of Ne 2 in 2025, voicing a lead character in the A24 and CMC Pictures version of the Chinese animated blockbuster. Because of course she did. Because there is apparently no genre, no language, no medium, and no format that Michelle Yeoh cannot conquer. Here is the thing I want you to walk away with. Hollywood has always had a very specific idea of when a woman is supposed to peak. When she is supposed to be the lead. When she is supposed to fade into the background and accept smaller roles and be grateful for whatever comes her way. That window has historically been brutally short and brutally unfair. Michelle Yeoh spent decades being told, sometimes explicitly, sometimes just through the roles she was and wasn't offered, that the world was not quite ready to put her at the center of everything. And she stayed ready anyway. She kept her craft sharp. She kept showing up. She did the work even when the recognition was not matching the effort. And then at 60 years old, she won the Oscar. And instead of treating that as a final destination, she treated it as the starting line for the next chapter. The Hollywood Walk of Fame ceremony happened in February 2026. A star on the ground alongside the legends. And fans flooded social media with love, with tears, with videos of themselves reacting in real time. Someone posted the announcement with a black and white photo and fans literally panicked thinking something bad had happened to her. That's how much she means to people. The relief when they realized it was a celebration and not a tragedy turned into this massive outpouring of joy. Because Michelle Yeoh is not just admired. She is loved. She is one of those rare people who the public has decided they need to protect, need to celebrate, need to see win. At 63 years old she is more in demand than she has ever been. She is starring in more films than people half her age. She is breaking records and accepting honors and building franchises and collaborating with the best directors working today. And she is doing all of it with a grace and a power and a warmth that makes everyone around her better. So if anyone ever tells you that you missed your window, if anyone tells you that it is too late, if anyone tells you that the industry or the world or the timing is not in your favor, remember Michelle Yeoh. Remember that the woman who is right now considered one of the greatest action heroines of all time by Rotten Tomatoes, who is the first Asian Best Actress Oscar winner in history, who has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame and an honorary Golden Bear from Berlin and a John Wick-style franchise in the pipeline. Remember that she was doing ballet until her back gave out, then entered a beauty pageant, then moved to a country whose language she barely spoke, then retired, then came back, then waited another 2 decades for the world to fully wake up to what she had been doing the whole time. The world caught up. And it was worth every single second of the wait. Michelle Yeoh is not a comeback story. She was never gone. She was just getting started.